So as part of going into the business and treating it as a professional endeavor, not as a hobby, and as a avenue to try to be successful and make money, you have to figure out that even if you're a sole proprietor or whatever, you need to have a team of professionals that can help you achieve your goals.
Are you a business owner, manager, CEO, or entrepreneur that needs some help nurturing your growing business? Come see Jonathan Adams and Sam Droshak, two business consultants with over 30 years of experience providing businesses just like yours with a little bit of therapy to maximize their potential.
Hey everyone, welcome to Business Therapy, a show about helping real professionals solve real business problems.
Hey everyone, it's John Adams. Welcome back to Business Therapy, the show where we tackle common business problems or have our guests talk about common business problems and how they overcame them and provide insights that help you thrive. Today on the show, we'll be discussing what happens when a business starts off and either has poorly done documents or no documents, and what comes next after that. And we're very fortunate to be joined by Matthew Fonaro. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Hi, John. Thanks for having me.
So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your background and what brought you to business therapy today?
Sure. So Matthew Fonaro, I've been an attorney for 21 years. I focus on business law, helping small and medium-sized businesses with their legal issues, whether it's litigation or transactional. I started out working for two big AmLaw 200 law firms, helping out the big guy. And then I decided I had the opportunity to work for an even bigger law firm or go off and do my own thing. So I decided to do my own thing. And I decided to focus on helping small and medium-sized businesses because growing up, my dad had a small business. And I saw all the stuff that he did and all, not really struggles, but the challenges and stuff he had with being a small business, and thought that I could help fill in that niche, which I've been doing for almost 10 years now.
How come you decided to go into your own practice and continue on the track in AmLaw?
It's fun being a little cog in the big wheel, but after a while, it gets monotonous, and you have to deal with things like just weird politics and job stability and all kinds of issues. So I figured if I'm gonna ever do something myself, now is the time to do it, and that was the time to do it, and I did it.
Excellent. And you're happy? You're happy you made the choice?
Yeah, I'm definitely happy. I mean, it's definitely a lot of work and it's stressful, but it's stressful in a different way than it was working for the man. One of the main things is, like, I can work as much or as little as I want to. If I want to right now, I could turn this off, take a nap, and wake up on Monday and no one's going to yell at me or anything. The same tune, I'm not going to make any money because every 2 weeks a paycheck doesn't show up in my ACH account. I have to work, be diligent, and do whatever. So am I happy with my choice? Yeah. I like my lifestyle now better than when I worked in big law.
So you're going to take a chance of not making money because you're not working in BL.
Yeah, exactly. It's, I yell at myself, so it's good.
Yeah, different stress. So as we said at the opening, we talked about, I guess you come in often after a small business starts out. They try cobbling together whatever documents or agreements they need. Maybe they don't think it all the way through. And then at what point do they get you involved? What's the trigger?
So ideally, I would like to get involved with a business at its inception. Sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't. If it happens and I get involved, then we, put together like a team with like an accountant, a banker, insurance, whoever they need, and we put together a team to help guide the business and do stuff. And I draft the business's documents. We figure out what kind of business it's going to be, and put everything together and go from there. However, a lot of the time I get approached midstream by a business where they're already in business. They either didn't really budget or think about having an attorney on board to begin with, and they don't have articles of incorporation, They don't have operating agreements. They don't have partnership agreements. They don't have contracts for when they deal with vendors or other people. And then either they kind of have an epiphany and they figure out they need that stuff, or they get in trouble and they get sued, or a situation happens where they need the stuff, or we need to remedy them not having the documents. So that's kind of where midstream I come in.
Well, I would imagine that a lot of businesses that are starting, the challenge is how much to invest before they're generating any revenue. So the thought of not just getting a lawyer, but many different things that a business should have, I guess it could seem daunting or concerning, to be spending money. So what would you say to that?
I would say, look, everyone goes into business to succeed and to try to make money. No one goes into business wanting to fail. So as part of going into the business and treating it as a professional endeavor, not as a hobby and as a avenue to try to be successful and make money, you have to figure out that even if you're a sole proprietor or whatever, you need to have a team of professionals that can help you achieve your goals. So as part of that team of professionals, you have to realize that when you put together like a written business plan, or you put together your business plan from its inception, you have to budget for having professionals help you. You have to have a business law attorney. You have to have an accountant. You have to have like a commercial banker. You have to have, depending on what you're in, insurance, web people, whatever. And it's not just a luxury, it's a necessity, because the amount of money you're going to invest at the beginning is going to save you a lot of money in the long term by not having problems that you're going to have by not having, for instance, governing documents or things like that to begin with.
Can you give some examples of what goes wrong? They probably might instinctively started from there, because that might be the impetus to get people to see the need for it on the front end.
Sure. So, when you start out with a business, for instance, I'm in Florida, okay? It's similar across the country. All you have to do is go to your Secretary of State's website, put in some data, pull out your credit card, hit enter, and boom, wait for it to clear. And then 2 days later, you have a LLC or a corporation, all right? So that's literally the bare minimum of what there is to do. It legally exists in your state, but it doesn't have any governing documents with it. There's no operating agreement. There's no articles of incorporation. There's no bylaws. There's no partnership agreement. It's the bare minimum. You have the bare minimum, all right? So when you have the bare minimum, you're going to have problems down the road when you need to do something other than just simply exist. So, for instance, before you even run into problems, if you're a brick and mortar entity or whatever, or have a warehouse or something, okay, you're gonna have to rent space. In order to rent commercial space, you have to be able to show your landlord that you have, like, most of the time, a written business plan. If you're a new business, you have to show them your articles of incorporation or your bylaws, and you have to probably sign a personal guarantee. Well, if you don't have any of those documents, you're not getting a space, and you're going to have to create those documents anyways to get your space. Same thing with if you're going to get a loan. If you're going to rather get a private loan, an SBA loan, open up a bank account, you're going to have those documents to show the bank. Otherwise, they're not going to open up an account for you. So there's hurdles that are in place before you even get going, where you need those documents in order to even get properly going. Then there's the issue of, okay, you've overcome those hurdles or whatever. You had,
let's say you don't need a loan, or you're working from home.
Yeah, let's just say you're operating out of your garage or whatever, and you don't need any of that stuff. Okay. The problem is that if you don't have those operating documents, those are the blueprints, and that's the roadmap and the guidelines with how you run your business and how things operate and how you do and don't do things, and how, if there's a problem, your remedies are provided for in those documents, and your relationship with others in your business or others outside of your business is all provided for in those documents. If you don't have those documents, then you don't have anything. You have to fall back, for instance, in Florida where I am, you have to fall back to either the LLC statute or the corporation statute to describe what is supposed to happen in your business. And you really don't want to do that. You want to have that written down and ready to go and something that you actually want to do versus having to do something that's like statutorily mandated for you.
And let's say somebody doesn't have any partners, they're doing it on their own. What's another issue with the operating agreement?
You still have to, I mean, obviously, if you're solo, you still have, if you're a corporation or an LLC, you still have to have those documents because you have to keep your corporate formalities. And if you don't do that, you're going to run into problems because down the road, if your business fails or if you get involved in a lawsuit or something, if you don't run your business professionally and have even if you're a one-person corporation, have corporate minutes, have yearly meetings, vote on things, have a president, have a secretary, have a treasurer, who can all be the same person, by the way, you're going to run into problems because if you don't maintain those corporate formalities, arguably your business is now your alter ego and you're indistinguishable from your business because you didn't do the proper steps. So now instead of it being your business's fault or your business being liable, now you're personally liable.
So this is, maybe expand on this. Do you have any examples or horror stories or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I have 20 years worth of stories of anything you want, from missed documents. I mean, one of the main things that I didn't really touch on is also if you have what we'll say is a partner, but not really a partner, you have another member in an LLC or another shareholder in a corporation. If you have a dispute with that person, you don't have a operating agreement or you don't have bylaws or articles of incorporation, you're going to have serious problems because now you're having to go to the statutory rules and you're not going to like it, instead of having a roadmap on what to do. So for example, I had a client where her husband was in business with another guy and it was an LLC. Okay. So it was believe it or not, it was a roof cleaning company. All right. Totally random. Okay. But it was highly successful, crazy successful roof cleaning company. So the husband died and the estate went to the wife, but there was no LLC agreement in place as to who does what. So the wife didn't get along with the husband's partner and the partner's family. And so there was immediately a whole ruckus and brouhaha between the two of them as to who runs the business, who's control of what, who gets what money and whatever. And it was a total disaster because there was no operating agreement and the two parties totally hated each other because the guy who was in business is dead. So now his estate passes to his wife, but it's not clear what business interests from the LLC passed to his wife because there's no operating agreement. So he sued the wife. I represented the wife, had to come in. And instead of just going right down the list of an operating agreement saying death of member, what you do next or whatever, we had to have a whole lawsuit about it. It went on for probably about a year. We finally settled it in mediation, but it cost everyone involved. It cost the former partner, it cost the wife, it cost the business a lot of, first of all, legal fees and court fees. And then it cost them a lot of lost business because they were at war with each other over who controlled the website, who controlled the phone number, who controlled the leads that came in, who controlled the Facebook page. So that was just a whole battle for a year where we had to go to court each time an issue popped up of who controls Twitter for the account, who controls the money. So it was a whole thing. It could have been totally avoided by a operating agreement. If there was an operating agreement, it literally would have been read 2 sentences in a paragraph and it tells you what to do and everyone gets to go about their business. So it resulted, like I said, in a lot of lost money. We wound up separating them from the company. We wound up selling the company. Everyone finally made money and did whatever, but it was totally could have been avoided if they had an operating agreement in place.
And presumably there could be similar stories even if the company wasn't crazy successful. So, 'cause
Correct. Even worse, at least they were fighting over money that existed. At least there was a rainbow in the pot of gold at the end. The worst part is if you're fighting over a business where there's no money and you owe money, which is an even worse scenario because then who owes what to where? You don't know unless you have those documents.
So, are there, before we get into like how you would approach somebody, if somebody came to you, what would be the things you've taken through? What would that experience be like? Before we get to that, are there other considerations or other things that somebody might not realize to do on their own that results in problems at the end?
Yeah, I would say if you're trying to do everything by yourself and you start up a business and you start up either a corporation or an LLC, I would say not just from a legal perspective, but from a financial perspective, you can run into major problems because if you don't consult with an attorney and an accountant, you may set up an LLC or you may set up a corporation that you think is fine, but then come March or April the next year, you're going to get killed on your taxes because based on your individual financial situation, you should have had an LLC, not a corporation, or you should have had a corporation, not an LLC, or you should not have been a sole proprietorship and you didn't consult with an accountant. Now you're going to be taxed at a crazy tax rate that you wouldn't have had to be taxed at, or you're going to have your individual income taxed along with your business when you could have had that all avoided by consulting with your attorney and then consulting with your accountant regarding the same thing.
So someone can come to you and say, I'm a new business, what do I do? They don't need to necessarily come to you and say, I need an operating agreement, etc.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you come to me and you're just, I have an idea or I have a business I want to start, that's ideally the best time to come to me is right then because we get to control everything. So, we'll go back and forth, have a discussion, trade lots of emails, go over stuff so I can conceptually understand what your business is, what it is your vision is, what you doing, who you're in business with, who you have, whatever. And then we'll either, if you have an accountant, I'll get with your accountant. If you don't have an accountant, I can recommend several accountants for you. If you have a banker, work with your banker. If you don't have a banker, I can recommend several bankers to you and go down the line and put a team together and then come up with, based on what you're telling me, a team to succeed so that you have your attorney in place, your accountant in place, whoever else you need in place. So then we can figure out, okay, what is best for you? And then we'll figure out, okay, well, based on your personal circumstances, you're probably going to want an S corporation. Okay, let's draft an S corporation. So then we draft your articles of incorporation, your bylaws. Then we ask you, here's what I'm going to put as standard language. Is there anything that you specifically want to see in your documents or some kind of, provision that you think is unique to you? Like I want everything to go, if something happens to me, I want everything to go to my dad, not my wife, or something like that. Or I don't want to bring on anyone. I just want to be by myself forever. I don't want there to be a provision to get rid of stock or anything like that. So then we'll customize your documents. We'll register it with the state, and then you'll be in business. And then have your documents that you can then have with your banker to set up your bank account, your landlord to set up your tenancy or your lease, and then go from there. So that's ideally, I'd love to get you at the inception, and then we can put that team together and put everything together in order and just go straight from there, and everything will be very smooth. And then that way, I want to put things in your hands so that all you have to do is make business decisions. You don't have to make other decisions. And I want to put things in your hands so that if your business succeeds or fails, it's because of the business itself. It's not because of technicalities or because you had this paper and didn't have that paper or whatever. So that's ideally when I'd like to see you. Obviously, we can do it at any point in the lifespan of your business, but ideally it's great to see at the inception. And then that's how we start out and move from there.
It sounds like you benefit, or your clients benefit greatly from your experience because see a lot more angles or see a lot more gaps that might exist in their thinking than maybe somebody who's just starting out. So assuming that's fair as a characterization,
Yeah. Fair.
what are some of the criteria that you would suggest somebody consider when selecting an attorney and kicking off, and looking to kick this off?
Obviously there's lots of attorneys out there. If you're seeking out an attorney who focuses on business, you want to obviously find a business law attorney to help you with your business. You don't want a criminal defense attorney or like a personal injury attorney who dabbles in other areas of the law to help you. You want someone who's focused on that. So obviously you can go on the internet, look up Google ratings, look up Avvo ratings, and find attorneys. I generally recommend that if you can get a referral from someone who you trust, that's generally the best way to find an attorney rather than find it yourself, is to get a referral. Because if it's a referral, then you know that, and it's from someone who you trust, you do business with or whatever, then you know that they've already vetted the person, or at least they know about the person who they're referring you to. So that kind of clears one of the obstacles. The attorney they're referring you is an actual business law attorney, isn't like a maniac or something crazy or something like that. So then once you get referred to the attorney, obviously you just don't say, well, I understand you're a business law attorney, here's a retainer, let's get going. I mean, you want to meet with the attorney, whether it's via Zoom, over the telephone, in person, if that's what you're into, or via email, and make sure that the attorney understands what it is you want to do with your business. Not just, we're going to go through steps 1 through 10 and shoot out the other side, have a business. Maybe there's something special that you want to do, or very subjective that you want to do. So you got to make sure the attorney understands that. And you got to make sure you have a workable relationship with the attorney. Not, maybe your personalities don't match, or, something like that. So you got to make sure that it's a good fit. And then also you want to make sure that your attorney understands business. So it's one thing to conceptually be like, I can make agreements for you, or I can make contracts for you. You ideally want an attorney who understands the machinations of running a small or medium-sized business, or the issues that are faced by someone running a small or medium-sized business or a startup, so that they can better not just be your attorney at law, but be your counselor at law, and help you, give you advice, not just of black and white on legal issues, but on other issues as well. So then that way it goes to you just having to make business decisions, and hopefully it goes to your business, succeeding on the merits rather than on technicalities.
And once they, assuming, they get past that, they refer to you, or they met you, and there's good connection there. How long is the process from when they reach out to you till, typically, or what's the range, until they have at least what they need to?
There's no real formula to it. There's no real number. I mean, if you come to me on Friday afternoon and you're like, emergency, we got to get this done, here's what I need, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we can get it done in a couple of days maximum. I mean, it only takes, the only thing that's, if you're literally starting a business, the only thing that takes time is for the business to be registered with the state, for the state to approve it. I mean, you can create the documents in a matter of minutes and get the stuff going. So there's not really a time. Generally, I like to, I don't like to be rushed. I mean, I can do that if needed, but I like to take my time to understand, and for you to understand what it is you want to do, what you need, how you want to do it, who you're working with, what other professionals you have on board, and then take our time and do it. Obviously, we're not going to take months to do it or whatever, but ideally, we take more than a couple of days to put together your documents and get you started. But we wouldn't take, we're not going to take like 6 months of be like, I'm still trying to figure you out. It's not like that. So it's somewhere in between. There's no specific number, but ideally I'd like to take a little more time to make sure we get everything right. But like I said, if it's life or death for whatever reason, which I've actually been dealt with that before, I mean, we can get it done instantaneously. It's not a problem.
I'm sure a lot of, if there's a delay in it happening, I'm sure a lot of that is because you're giving food for thought to your clients and they need to think about something and get back to you.
Yeah, I mean, if there's like, I don't want to say an undue delay, but it's because I'm like, well, what's your accountant say? I don't have an accountant. Okay, well, do you know of an accountant you want? No, I don't know any accountant. Okay, here's 5 accountants that I know. You can, they're all great. Pay, vet them out, call them, email them, pick one, meet with the accountant, figure out what you need financially as far as your business organization, and then get back with me. And so then that's like something where, I won't hear back from someone for maybe a week or two. And then finally they're like, I met with the accountant. They said I should have an S Corp. Okay, well, now we'll come back and now we'll set up an S Corp.
Yeah, and I'm sure also, like, just thinking of your example before, you say, okay, what happens if you die? And then someone says, I assume it goes to my wife. And then if he has a partner, I go, wait, I didn't think that's how we were going to do it. And then, they need to work that out before the documents can or something.
Yeah, that's another thing. I mean, business succession planning is another thing that you want to take your time with, and you don't want to rush, and you want to make sure that everyone understands, particularly if you have partners or people who you're in business with. So there's no doubt, and you got to make sure that everyone understands that, you may like me, but you may not like my wife. But if I'm gone, my wife's getting the business. So you're going to have to figure out how to either buy her out, her to buy you out, or sell the business if you can't get together and work. So those are all things you have to consider.
Are there any other things we haven't covered so far on selecting the attorney, on process, or things that people should know going into it?
Just making sure that you do as much due diligence as possible before you make all your moves. And like I keep using the term business decision, you got to ultimately, we're going to take everything out of your hands because we're going to figure out what you need and whatever, and then just leave it to you to mostly make business decisions. So that way, it's just you making the decisions for the business rather than you having to micromanage or do things that someone else should be delegated to do. And that's generally the best course of action for you to then, focus on your business.
And I'll ask one more question. I don't know if it's something you can answer on in a podcast, but is there a cost range or something that that somebody can have in mind going into this? Or is that just
sure? I mean, the cost range is between 0 and infinity. It depends on what you need, and I'll qualify it like this. If you need documents drafted, okay, generally speaking, that's going to be done on a flat fee basis where I can tell you ahead of time, generally speaking, what it's going to cost. Like, you're like, I need an operating agreement. Okay, well, I know generally speaking, you're going to have a special operating agreement because we're going to make it customized for you. But generally speaking, I know what goes into an operating agreement. So I can give you a flat fee quote ahead of time on what that's going to be. Same thing with like articles of incorporation, same thing with like a lease or reviewing documents. If you come to me and you say, look, I have a 50-page lease I'd like you to look at, I know how long it's going to take to do a 50-page lease, and I can just tell you it's going to cost however many hundreds of dollars. All right. If you're involved in litigation, that's totally different because we're not in charge of the beginning, middle, or end of litigation because it's a two-sided thing. Excuse me. So that's an hourly basis, or that's an hourly fee. So it can be on the low end if we very quickly come in and resolve things and settle the case, or it could be extremely expensive if we have to go forward and have a trial and have the case adjudicated on the merits. So obviously, depending on the case, I can kind of give you a budget of make sure you're going to devote 10, 20, 30, however many thousands of dollars to the litigation in this case. So I can give you ranges, and I can give you pretty good estimates, but don't hold me to it. But generally speaking, for documents, you're going to want to be billed on a flat fee basis. For review of documents, you want to be billed on a flat fee basis. And for litigation, you're going to want to be, or you're going to be billed on an hourly basis, I should say, because if you get billed on a flat fee for litigation, someone is going to turn out very poorly in that transaction, whether it's the attorney or whether it's the client, because flat fee litigation, at least in my opinion, never works. So,
well, it encourages them to do the minimal they need to do because the time is fixed.
Yeah, either you're gonna get stuck with no work product, or the attorney's gonna get stuck with essentially, unpaid labor for however long. So that's why it doesn't really work out.
And for those listening, how do they get in touch with you? Do you want your email, website, or?
Sure. I'm all over social media. The easiest way to get a hold of me is to go to my website, which is fonarolegal.com, which is my last name, fonarolegal.com. And it has all my contact information, phone number, email address, all my social media on there. It's got all my how-to videos, all my podcast appearances, all my white papers, and all my blogs, where at this point, if you have like a generalized question, I'm pretty confident that among all of that media that's on my website, you can pretty much find a pretty simple answer on there. If not, you just email me or call me and ask me.
Okay, and we'll make sure to have a link in so. Any final thoughts, Matthew, before we
just, look, if you're in business, you're not, even if you're a sole proprietor or sole person, you're not in it alone. I mean, you're going to put together, and you should have a team who's out there helping you, of attorney, accountant, banker, web person, insurance person, whatever. So you're never truly alone. You have a team with you, and make sure you use that team to your advantage, so that once again, you're just making business decisions, calling balls and strikes, and that's it. You're not worried about other things. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If you're new to business or you don't know what's going on, in addition to your professionals, I mean, you can always have a mentor. You can always have other business owners who are always glad to reach out and help you and give you advice. And then, you have sources like our podcast where you can go to get advice too.
Yeah, it sounds, my key takeaway is the counselor aspect of it all, especially going into a business. It's risky and scary. Having that team, as you said, that counselor to help you think of things beyond the business sounds like a nice warm blanket.
Yeah, it's one of the things I take very seriously is the counselor portion, because, like I said, I want to eliminate as much strife and as many questions from your repertoire as possible, so that it's just you focused on the business.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Matthew, for joining the show. It's been very interesting for me. So to our audience, let us know what you think, and please like and subscribe. And with that, bring another episode of Business Therapy.
All right. Thank you for having me.